readers and learners. And within the listening and learning strand, it has become a wonderful place for children to learn background knowledge and vocabulary critical to becoming a strong reader and a writer. This is a 60-minute block with core knowledge, language, arts, and within that, a teacher can, let's see, what are you doing in that thing? You are modeling your best reading and thinking strategies. You're exposing students to various fiction and nonfiction texts. You're supporting engaging discussions. You are extending a children's world view, and you are helping them to develop critical thinking skills. Now, this particular lesson that I'm going to do today comes from the second grade listening and learning strand called Early Asian Civilization Domain. It is not a domain that is currently up on the New York Engage.org website because it is still in revision. But the editor tells me that it is going to have a new version and that the enhancements to the lesson, including a transparent alignment to the Common Core standards, is going to be available when the materials are ready for New York. So let me just talk a little bit about the domain. It is Early Asian. It comes in about the 4th unit or 5th unit of the 2nd grade. Prior to this unit, children have learned about early world civilization, early American civilization, and astronomy in 1st grade, and those domains will lend themselves to helping children understand this domain. Let me just show you some of the lessons that come before the lesson that I'm going to show you today.
Right there, but then go down to the bottom where it says 100%. Yep. And make it bigger. It's the same thing. Isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
So here we are, 2nd grade, and look at all that we're learning. Indus River Valley. It's Indian and Chinese civilization, Hindus and Hinduism, some folk tales, the Festival of Lights, Diwali, Buddhists and Buddhism, the importance of rivers in a civilization, contributions of the Chinese, including paper, writing, and calligraphy, some more wonderful stories like the magic paintbrush, the importance of silk in Chinese contribution and their civilization, the Chinese Great Wall, China's Great Wall, Confucius, and the lesson that I'm going to show you today, Chinese New Year. And the reason why I chose Chinese New Year is because Chinese New Year is on February 10th, and it is the year of the snake, so Gung Hoi Fa Choi, is that how you say it? Gung Hei Fa Choi? Okay, which means Happy New Year. Okay. Within the domain, each domain has a teacher's guide. In the teacher's guide, or we call it a read aloud anthology, there will be in the read aloud anthology, there will be an overview of the whole domain. It'll help the teacher understand what the children have already been taught in previous domains that connect to this domain, or in previous domains in an earlier grade. It'll have a list of core vocabulary that will show up in the read alouds. It'll show the teacher exactly where the locations of take-home instructional sheets, parenting sheets, a list of trade books that go along with this domain as well. I need to tell you that in every single listening and learning strand read aloud, the lesson format is always the same. It's about 5 parts. The first part is introducing the read aloud. The second part is presenting the read aloud. Third part is discussing the read aloud. The fourth part is word work, where we do our vocabulary. Then the fifth part is called an extension. The first 4 parts, where we're dealing with the read aloud and then vocabulary, That happens in what we call a Part B. And that really should stick together. That should stay together. It takes about 40 minutes. The second part, the extension, where you're doing a class chart, a class book, a Venn diagram, some quick writes, those things should happen in a 20-minute block in an extension part, which we call Part B. So this particular lesson has 3 parts to it in the introducing the read aloud. So we're going to start with introducing the read aloud, and the first part is called What Have We Already Learned? So the first thing that they want us to do is they want us to show the children a map of China. So I do have a map of China there, and I would have children come up and look at it. So I can show that to you, or I also wanted to show you that within listening and learning, children learn about map skills. And one of the domains is to look at a map of India and China and to label the parts that we've learned about. The next thing that we do is, after we've shown the map up to the children, which I can show you if you want. It's just something I downloaded from the internet. This is so hard to snap your own computer. I wouldn't even do it. I'm just say this one. Okay, so after we show the map, then we want to find out what they've learned already and what they've retained from early Chinese civilization and the contributions from ancient China. Now, as you saw, some of the lessons are about paper and writing and calligraphy and silk. So Core Knowledge comes with these image cards, and I'll elicit from the kids, what do we remember as being some of the most important contributions from Chinese civilization? And I hope that if they've been hearing about what we've been learning about, that they can pull up paper, calligraphy, silk, and I can show them this image card, which brings together paper, writing, and calligraphy at least, right? And children are able to do this. They remember. Since this lesson that I'm going to show you is the last in a domain, children are able to remember everything that they've learned prior to this. The next part is called making predictions about the read aloud. Students will often be asked to make a prediction about the read aloud. This is a skill that's practiced explicitly in all the read alouds from kindergarten, so they're pretty used to it by the time they get to 2nd grade. The types of questions we ask children will help them learn to monitor their understanding of the story while thinking ahead to the next part. Now, having previewed the read aloud, I know that I can ask students to make better predictions by asking questions that will create a better focus. The teacher's guide will prompt me to ask the students, predict how the Chinese New Year is similar to or different from New Year's Day in the United States. So I might model for them so that they come up with a better prediction for themselves, and I'll say to them, now, I live in the United States, and one of the things that I do to celebrate New Year's Day is I use a noisemaker. I use a noisemaker, and at midnight I yell with my family, Happy New Year. How many of you do that with your families? Do you think that that's something that the Chinese might do? Well, I'm predicting that maybe they use something loud to make noise to bring in the new year. What are some of the things that you do with your families? I'll give you a minute to think, and then you can share. And then what I'll do is, after I've elicited some of the predictions, I'll either jot them down for myself, write them down on a smartboard, or write them down on a chart paper so that we can collect them, because we are going to come back to them when we get to discuss the read aloud. Here we are trying to create a personal connection to what the students know about their own traditions, about celebrating the new year and being able to gain enough information to compare and contrast it to the new information that they're going to gain in this read aloud about the Chinese New Year. The teacher guide prompts us to tell the students, listen carefully to see if your predictions are correct. So this is our way of setting a purpose for listening. We always set a purpose for listening in every single one of the read-alouds from kindergarten on. So they're used to it and they're ready for it, the children. So we're about to present the read-aloud. And